So I talked a little bit previously about how I thought Microsoft was in a little bit of a better place thanks to, finally getting some good games out, and people are starting to kind of recognize that. I thought that it was a decent look for them at the Game Awards. Of course, Sony came away with the prize, Game of the Year, despite the fact that it was like a really lackluster year from Sony's first party in general, and people really celebrated that. So I'm not going to try and take away from it. I think that the game is a very good game. I think Astrobot is really good, probably the best game that Sony put out this year. I mean, you could maybe say that Helldivers 2 certainly, but Helldivers 2 won multiplayer game of the year. So if anything, I really think that we're in a situation where Microsoft could kind of lend some credence there by going out of their way to make sure that gamers have great games to play for a change, and change the people's opinions of Xbox and things like that. So I feel like that is a hard thing to do, but I want to get into this because I feel like this is going to be a good video. What's up, everyone? I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews, back with yet another video. Thank you guys for checking it out. Please smash that like button. It certainly helps out my channel. It means a lot to me. At the end of the day, it really does. It just helps the channel out a ton. And again, that's so much appreciated. I do daily gaming content, right? Daily gaming content, and that's something that not everybody can do. And I try to be informative, I try to be entertaining, a little bit fun or whatever, but at the end of the day, it is just entertainment. So we kind of have that. Now listen, as we get towards the even more close to the end of the year, I have to say I'm really enjoying Indiana Jones. That's a big win for Microsoft. I don't know what Microsoft's role in that game was, to be honest. I honestly don't really care. I think it's a really good game. And I think if that game had released a little bit earlier in the year, it could have possibly won Game of the Year, because, I had more fun with it, or I'm having more fun with it than Astrobot, although Astrobot's a good game too. But I think that it would have, if Microsoft can get that Game of the Year, that kind of thing out there, hey, we can win these things too, we can put out these quality games too, I think that really kind of helps people to maybe come to the side of Xbox a little bit more anyway than what they were. Now, with that being said, I think Microsoft's in a prime place to pounce, and I mentioned this in a previous video. If you look at things like just over the next year or so, you've got Fable, Avowed, you've got the next Call of Duty, which people are saying is going to be the next Modern Warfare game. Now, all these aren't exclusive, obviously, but they're first party and they're Game Pass games. You've got South of Midnight, you've got Outer Worlds 2, you've got Doom. They have a very eclectic, great looking group of games, and I feel like maybe Microsoft is getting out of that kind of pandering side of things that a lot of developers are stuck in. And if you look at what's happening right now with like Naughty Dog, they're kind of stuck in that. You can tell that some of the games that are announced recently and that have come out recently, like Dragon Age, Velguard, that these games were made, kind of like COVID/Joe Biden era, and and I think we're most definitely out of that type of era now. You know what I mean? We're definitely out of that kind of era, and it really makes sense to kind of go out there and say, hey, we're going to do something, on our own. We're going to do something that caters to the majority of fans, and I think that's what we need to see more than anything. We need to see, gamers having things that they are excited to play again. When you look at, like, again, I hate to use this, but Naughty Dog, think about what this team has done before, right? They did the Crash Bandicoot games, right? The first few. They did the Jak and Daxter games. They did the Uncharted games, just amazing games. People love, like, I think the first Last of Us game might be the most awarded game or second most awarded game ever. And then you could tell they started to kind of go maybe a little bit downhill with The Last of Us 2. There was some discourse there, and that game sold only about half as well as the first Last of Us. And in this generation, of course, they canceled the multiplayer game. They also basically just became cover bands of themselves, releasing remasters of Uncharted 4 and the Lost Legacy, remasters of The Last of Us 2 and a remake of The Last of Us Part 1 for some reason. So they remastered that previously and remade it. So kind of weird to me how that comes about. But that is like the perfect time for Microsoft to kind of pounce and do stuff like this. I feel like what they're doing is really impressive. And I got to be honest, I love seeing that from Microsoft. I love seeing them fight the good fight and make sure that, gamers are, excited about the future of what's coming to Xbox. Because, again, they have some good games, and you have to have some stuff, I think, exclusives out there. And honestly, I feel like you have to be able to have those exclusives that appeal to the majority of people. So, I'm hopeful for that. I think people are going to be really impressed by that. You hope that Xbox can go, okay, well, yeah, these few games are going to go on PlayStation, but, we've got a bunch more stuff coming to Xbox and things like that, and you can get them all on Game Pass or whatever. Like, I've never personally looked at, the ability to rent games as this huge thing, but, listen, people are very careful with their money these days, and, they want to get as much as they can out of that money. And so I hope that that's what they continue to do. I hope that people, continue to feel like it's a value. Listen, if they actually do release, everything like what they're supposed to, I feel like we could be in a situation where they are very much getting a value. 25, six first-party games is huge. So, I think that Microsoft is definitely on the right course there. And, whether or not this is going to be something that leads to, something for Microsoft, I think that's going to be, something that really kind of depends on the gamers themselves. So I hope that things can kind of change and, and that they can get like some stuff out. It looks, in my opinion, looks great. So, we'll have to see. Now is the time to kind of strike for Microsoft. I hope they don't blow that chance because, in my opinion, you have to understand that, okay, Sony is struggling mightily right now. Listen, and I don't say this lightly, right? So I haven't put in much time on PlayStation, and I put in less time on Xbox than I normally would, but that's a lot of that has to do with the games themselves. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not some super uber right-wing person, but damn, man, they make games that a lot of the games that have come out lately are for I think a group that doesn't even really exist. You know what I'm saying? It's just this group that might be making the games, but again, Naughty Dog's falling apart. I felt like the last God of War was a step down from the previous one. They messed up Ghost of Tsushima, man. We wanted Jin, and we get some extremist liberal woman who hates everybody as the main character, right? Ratchet and Clank was good, and then they get rid of that for a new female protagonist, and it's this realistically is just the way this stuff is going, and it's really such a shame that this stuff happens the way that it does, because people that are super excited about the future of Xbox and things like that, they're definitely not going to switch to a different competing platform or whatever based on certain things or whatever. But like I said, I find it to be a very interesting situation that we find ourselves in, because Microsoft has some tremendous games lined up, and Sony made these bets on games as a service, and who would have thunk that that's what they would have done. Meanwhile, Microsoft has done some incredible things in the single player department. I mean, look at Indiana Jones, Starfield, while under a little bit underwhelming than what was promised, still a thing to kind of get out there, and kind of have that game out there. So, again, I think they're in a good spot. I think they're in a spot to kind of pour things on. you know, people are going to think things about me one way or the other, and that's fine. They go, oh, well, you know, you're just coping, or you're just this, or you're just that. Honestly, Microsoft has the better games lined up for the short term. Some of those games might be multi-platform, but their first party is cooking more than Sony's anyway. Let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crep Game.